Hi and welcome back to Seaver Garage. Today I'm going to be doing a quick video on valve adjustment for your Hawk 250, your TT 250, any of these 229cc Zongshen Chinese bikes. A lot of people skip this. It's very important. As soon as you do this, the bike will start a lot easier. It'll sound a little bit different. And a lot of people, I feel, avoid this because they just don't think it's necessary, or they, for whatever reason, but you really have to do it. If you buy a Honda from the Honda dealership, they do it before you even take the bike. Just because you got your bike assembled by a company doesn't mean they did this. They just throw them together as quickly as possible. It's just like adjusting your chain, but probably more important. You'll notice more, power, start easier, and you won't burn up your valves as quickly. So, anyways, not a lot of tools required for this. Usually just a flathead or something to remove the caps. You can also use a pair of pliers and like a quarter. I'll show that later. A 10mm box wrench. Can't really use a socket just because of where it's at. A 14mm socket extension, a flashlight, and a pair of feeler gauges. If you absolutely don't have a pair of feeler gauges, and you can get these pretty much anywhere, but just for the sake of whatever, I believe you could do this pretty well, or at least better than nothing, even without the feeler gauges. I mean, when I got my bike, there was no clearance at all between the lifter and or I guess the valve tappet and the actual valve head. You could basically just get there to be a little bit of a gap, and you'd be better off than where I was at. So anyways, I'm gonna try to do this without removing as much as possible. You could do this easier, I would say, by just taking the gas tank off and the fenders, but I'm trying to make this video to be as easy appearing as possible. But it's actually going to probably take me longer to do it this way, but I feel like it'll be easier to convey to people. So, first thing, we got to get this valve cover off. You got, I believe it's 3 bolts. Let me get my light here. One there, one on the other side. Just going to be your 10mm box wrench here. If I can get enough leverage to holding the camera at the same time. I have to set this down. Alright, let's see here. Pop these off. There we go. My bike's 2015, so I guess that would be 8 years old now. So it's been a little while since, pretty low mile bike, but it's been quite a while since I've messed with these. They're probably going to be within tolerance, because I've adjusted them when I bought the bike, and then when I got it new, I adjusted them. They were way off from the factory, and then after maybe 200 miles, I did it again. In a perfect world, I would say you would do that, but honestly, I'm only really advocating for at least do it when you buy it, because they do not come adjusted out of the factory. After the bike runs the first time, I would say adjust them first thing you do, but if you want to run the bike maybe, a couple hours before you do it, I could see the reasoning. If you don't want to do it again, I could see the reasoning for that. Alright, so back here, got one more. So let's do that real quick. Like I said, it would be easier if you take the tank off and stuff. Or there's going to be a little bit of fumbling here to get this cover off, and then a little bit of fumbling to kind of see what you're doing. But By doing it this way, it's only 3 bolts, and for somebody who doesn't want to take a whole bunch of stuff apart but is okay with it taking a little bit longer, this is an option. This is how I did it the first time anyways, so not against that. It's just there's a little bit of screwing around. So you got my three valve cover bolts right there. There it is. So get the flashlight here. So it's off now. Now the fun just becomes trying to get it out. It will come out. You have to kind of like twist it. Just super easy. You don't need to pound anything. Boom. There it is. So there's your 2 oil galleys. There's an O-ring around. It looks like my O-ring's in trouble. Boom. So here's our valves here. There's the valve 1, the 2. So you've got your adjusters here. I believe they're also 10. So I can tell you I'm not at top dead. Okay, now for the next part, I'm gonna get my wrench. So that was pretty easy. That whole process of taking the valve cover on took less than 5 minutes. Just the 3 bolts, and you saw how easy it comes out. Now I've got a 14 on a wrench. This is to crank over the motor. I would heavily recommend for this that you take your spark plug out. Otherwise, you're going to be fighting compression. You don't have to take it out, but when you go to crank it over to top dead, you're more than likely it's gonna pop too far and then become a hassle. So I'm gonna throw this in here. Once again, not necessarily required, but it'll make your life a lot easier. All right, so my spark plug's out. That's a 18 millimeter if you need that. Like I said, once again, don't have to take that out, but when you're cranking the motor over with the wrench, there's a chance that it'll kind of like get resistance and pop. This just makes it a lot smoother. Okay, so got our flashlight here and the wrench to turn over the motor, and you're gonna need the flathead as well. We're gonna head over to the other side, remove those inspection covers. If your inspection covers are giving you trouble and it seems like the flathead's gonna strip them out, get yourself like the biggest, if you could have a 50-cent piece, that'd be even better. Quarter works, whatever, and you're just gonna use that with a pair of pliers and hold that, and it fits really well in these slots. Mine I've never had a problem, but they're pretty easy. I've already loosened them here. Get a better spot for the light here. Okay, so we'll take this bottom one off. And you're gonna need this one as well. This is to see the spot on the flywheel that tells you where you're at top dead. You can use these to get to top dead. If they start to confuse you or you don't want to do it this way, I do have another option, but we'll get to that in just a second. So let me get this camera set up. Okay, so when the engine's spinning, this is gonna go counterclockwise. So you're gonna want to put your ratchet on loosen. And even now, let's see, make sure I got a good angle. Even now, you'll see the engine kind of pops when you go, but you're gonna look in here through this hole, and you'll see. Find it here. Oh, there it went. So there is marks. This one has a T. And the other one, if I go backwards a little bit, there's an F. Let's see here. Now the key here is you can't just go to the T. If you do that, there's 4 strokes. There's 2 instances where it's going to be at top dead. Right now I am at top dead. I know this because I see a T, and both of my, let's see if I can get the light in here. Both of my rocker arms have a slight bit of gap in them. Now that I know this bike's been adjusted before, so there should be gap. See if you can see. And then this one over here. But when your bike's brand new, you'll rotate it around. They might be touching. And In my other stroke, they will be touching, but in yours, they could both be touching right out of the box. So, I'll show this again. So, see if I can show in here, if you can see the T or not. Yeah, you can see the line there, and it has a T. So every time the crank spins around, the valves go twice. It's a 2-to-1 ratio. So we're only concerned about the valves because we need there to be no tension on these valves up here. So there's a way to do this. You'll still need to put your wrench on the crank. You could jack the bike up and spin the rear tire with it in gear. Don't really recommend doing that just because it's too difficult. But as we spin this, I'm going to try to walk you through how to tell what stroke you're at without actually using the sight window. And this will also show you how to do it, how to figure out which stroke you're on. So there's our two lifters where they touch the push rods. We're going to look at those. So as you watch, as I turn, so boom, the exhaust valve, the one on the left, just went up. So we were just at top dead. We just had combustion, it went down. And now it's coming back up and it's pushing all the exhaust out. So that's our exhaust stroke. Now the piston hit top dead again and it's going to be going down. But now if I check my things here, they're both tight. We are technically at top dead right now. If I look at this button down here on the crank, the little thing, it will show T, top dead. But this is not the top dead we're looking for because we just hit the exhaust stroke. We're looking for ignition. So we're going to turn it more. Now, the piston was just the top and it pushed all the exhaust out. Now the piston's going down and our intake valve's opening. That's because the piston's going down and it's pulling air in. Now we're going down, we're going down. Boom, it just hit the bottom. The intake valve closed. Turn it a little bit more. Now we are technically at top dead. We're not exactly there. And if I looked here, we'd probably be, the piston's probably halfway up. But you're at the bottom of the lobe on the cam. So we are technically at top dead in the sense that if I look at both my valves, there's the same amount of clearance there was when I was at true top dead when I found it. The reason this is so important, and I think helpful to people that may have trouble finding top dead, you can find top dead just by following the cycles. Pretty easily. I mean, I just did it quicker than... so anyways, if I keep rotating here... and you could look, another skill you could use if you can't quite figure out these little markings down here, you put like a chopstick or something in the spark plug hole, you'll be able to see where the piston's at. And that, like right now I'm in between, like I said, rotations. But anyways, I'm gonna keep turning in here, still nothing happened, boom. Now we hit our exhaust, we're out of top dead again. And you could go back if you want, rotating this. I would recommend probably not doing that, but I can't tell you any reason why. So if I rotate it backwards, there it is, back at top dead. So there's the right amount of slack. So now they're at top dead, and I can go back and verify through the hole here to make sure we're at the T. Let's see here. Fire. Oop, counterclockwise here. It's really hard to do one-handed. Boom, there it is. So there's the T, if you can see it up here. Both these are in the center. Both have a little bit of gap. Now we're done with this. Now that it's in top center, it's time to adjust the valves. So we're gonna head back over to the other side and start that process. All right, so got ourselves set at top dead. Got our feeler gauges here. You can look up your specific bike or look in the manual, do some reading on forums, whatever you want. I'm not gonna make the argument about what specific gapping to use, but It ranges from about 3 to 5 thousandths. Sometimes they say you should go higher on the exhaust and the intake. Exhaust gets hotter, more expansion, needs more gap. But anyways, whatever size you're going with, I'm probably gonna go with 5 thou. You grab, they make ones of these that are bent, which makes it a little bit easier, but you just want to feel a slight drag. So mine are looking a little loose as of the moment, but not by much. Once again, this isn't how they came from the factory. I've adjusted them a couple times, but probably could be tightened just a little bit. Most of the time yours are going to need to be loosened, but you should be able to put it in there and feel a slight drag. If you've never done this before, it helps to get a feel by putting maybe a size smaller in and then moving up and then moving up if you're trying to see where they're at, because you'll feel the difference between the two. But we're gonna grab our 10mm wrench here, and you're just gonna loosen the keeper just like that. They make special tools for these to actually turn the headpiece. You can either use your fingers like I'm doing, or you can get a pair of needle nose. And so loosen the keeper nut, and then you turn this top piece by wherever you need to go, in or out. Okay, so there, I've got a little bit of drag. It's right where I want to be, maybe just a smidge. So what I was saying earlier about not having to have a feeler gauge, if this is all the way tight, you literally can't move it. If you hear mine right now, I don't know how close I can get the camera, it moves just a little bit. If you don't have a feeler gauge, I would open this up. You might actually have to turn this a little bit just to release the valve from being pushed down. But my argument is you could literally get it so there's just a little bit, like a couple, maybe a human hair distance between, and you'll be better off than if it's left doing nothing. I've done these enough that I really feel I could just eyeball it and get pretty close. But 5 thousandths, you can see there I've got just a little bit of drag. Like I said, it's a little bit hard with these non-angled. I have to come in here right in front of the camera to get the right angle. So maybe a little bit more. The other thing you can do, if you have the feeler gauge, is put the feeler gauge in there, just spin this with your finger, and you'll get exactly where you want to be. So now comes the fun part. You need to tighten this, but without the tool to hold it, as you turn it, it'll want to turn the stud. So I'm just watching it right now, and there I'm close, but it's going to want to turn this stud. So your two options are A, either back it up before you tighten it and then tighten it so as it turns at that last half turn, it doesn't mess with your adjustment, or you can, like I said before, grab a pair of needle nose and grab the top hat and squeeze it a little bit. Okay, so I just tightened it down. I'm gonna give it a little bit of a turn here. You really don't want these coming off. Let's see where we're at. There you go, you can kind of hear it. And I'm gonna pull my 5 thousandths back out, double check it, and there it goes. It slides in there nice and good, a little bit of drag, and that side's done. Gonna repeat the exact same thing over here, except like I said, some people call for more on the exhaust side. Anywhere from 3 to 5 thousand should be fine. Let's see here where we're at. So it's in, seems to be a little bit loose. So I'm gonna loosen this. There it went. Gonna loosen it a bit more. Get our 5 thousandths, 4 thousandths, 3 thousandths, whatever you're choosing to use in there. Gonna tighten it down just with my fingers. I'm not actually tightening it down, just to get close. A little bit of drag. Tighten the nut with my fingers. There we go. Now I'll put the pliers on there. This is really hard to do with no hands. And then we're gonna grab our box wrench, get in there, tighten it down, give it one more tighten, There it goes. And then put the feeler gauge in there. Fits good. Doesn't go up and down with the feeler gauge in. Goes up and down. There. There. So that is it. Those gauges, those valves are adjusted. I'm gonna walk through the reassembly just because I'm trying to make this video as helpful for people as possible who are nervous about doing this. So next thing, we've got our valve cover here. Notice there's a circle spot right here. That goes right there. So it's gonna go like this. You're gonna come in, I'm doing this with just by memory, so give me a sec. You're gonna come in with the back portion first, and you just kind of slowly, there's just enough clearance for it, kind of wiggle it back and forth until it clears. There it is. Boom, it's in place. We got our 3 screws here. Gonna thread those in by hand. I'm gonna have to move the valve cover around a little bit. It's a rubber O-ring style gasket, so you don't gotta worry about replacing any gaskets. If your bike is new, you might run a little bit of oil along the gasket before you put it back, just to make sure it seals good. Okay, I'm gonna reach around the back side here, put the other one in. Gonna tighten them with my fingers. And then this is just about it. The only thing left I gotta do is put the spark plug back in, which you should be able to do. Make sure to put your covers back in. Tighten those pretty good. Try not to strip out the covers, but you definitely don't want those falling off. I've seen some people on the forum and stuff, they must have not tightened them. I don't know, in my opinion, they have a rubber O-ring. You don't need to Loctite them or anything. The pressure against the O-ring would be plenty. I've never had one come off. The only reason you're having them come off, I mean, these bikes vibrate a lot, but the only reason they're coming off is if they weren't tightened, or that's basically it. It's just, they don't just fall off. Most of the time, you spend more time trying to get them off than anything. The only time I've ever seen them fall off is because someone didn't tighten them or whatever. Obviously, you don't want to refund them when you're using a tiny flathead, just based on their shape, but I wouldn't think that you would. So, gonna tighten that. Same thing with this, has got 3 mount bolts, so don't tighten any of them all the way until after they're all tightened down a little bit. So that one, on the back side here. Tighten this one first. That one's tight. That one's tight. Dong. Okay, those are all tight. I'm gonna drop my spark plug back in. NGK, definitely worth getting rid of the stock spark plug. It'll work fine, but I mean, it's like $2. I think it's like a Hot Shot brand or something. Alright, and I'm gonna have to tighten that with the wrench, obviously, before I put it back on, but I'm gonna head over to this other side and get our covers back on. This is a small one. So in this case, make sure you got the O-ring. My O-ring stayed there, and that's fine. But just make sure you have your O-ring. It didn't fall off. This one, the O-ring stayed on the plug. And thread these with your fingers. Hard to do with gloves here. Okay. Just gonna come in here. Tight. Tight. You can use a much bigger screwdriver than I'm using too, by the way. That's why I mentioned the quarter or whatever, because I'm using one that's pretty small for the job. But I'm gonna put the spark plug back in, and then we'll start it up. All right, spark plug's back in. I got choke 2 clicks up. The bike has not been started today, so I want to show how easy it should start. Bike's been sitting for a while, not to mention, but here we go. Should fire up just like that. I mean, that's one of the great things about adjusting the valve. It just starts so much easier. Probably because when they're so tight like that, they're not closing as well as they should be. But probably die on me. Yep. To the choke back down. I can't do it two-handed. But choke's off. There it is. Gonna be doing some more videos of simple things like changing out the carburetor. Anything else anybody needs, let me know. I can make a video on it. I've probably done it. These bikes are super easy to work on. I have this other bike over here, this XR200. You can see the similarities between the two. Same carburetor, PZ30. Same valve adjustment, except you don't need to take the valve cover off. There's actually inspection caps here. But these bikes are super similar, and most of the maintenance I've done on both. Done top ends and stuff on these Zongshan motors. Really easy to work on. Definitely do your valve adjustment. It's not daunting at all. It's super easy. I mean, you only really need like a couple tools, and it's definitely worth it. It'll extend the life of your motor. It'll run better. There's really no downside. And I promise you, you don't need to know a whole bunch or have any special tools. Most of this video I did without cuts. That's why it's so long. Just so that, you know, sometimes when you watch videos like this, you think that there's stuff that happens in between the video breaks. There's nothing here. I literally just did it the whole way through. So any questions or comments or anything, just let me know and I'll answer them as soon as I can.